When we think about creativity, there are so many different elements that feed into it. But importantly, in your role, you have helped foster a creative ecosystem that really is driven by focusing on opportunity, on talent. So I want to ask you, how do you see the role of government in fostering creativity?
First of all, thank you for having me, and thank you all for joining this session. Let me just take you back to the beginning. The creative industry within Dubai has always grown organically. So nothing I have done has actually created that creative seed. We've worked on really supporting the industry since before COVID. And the role of government in supporting creativity within a city and within a country, I see is it's from numerous angles. First of all, like I mentioned, the industry has always grown organically. There were always creatives in Dubai decades ago. Our role, initially as a government, is to support this growth and to enable it and to support our creatives and give them the opportunities they need to excel at what they do. In my opinion, this is still the role that we need to do. As a government entity, I don't want to come out with all the initiatives or create all the cultural or creative fairs. I want to enable the creatives themselves, the private industry, to be able to do these things, to come up with these initiatives. And I believe this is how you can create diversity within an industry.
So you speak about enablement. Give us some examples of measures you've taken that you find actually allow that creativity to be unleashed.
So one particular example that comes to mind is a part of the Dubai Creative Economy Strategy that His Highness Sheikh محمد bin Rashid launched in 2021. Part of that strategy was coming up with a creative zone where we ease the friction for creatives to set up creative entities, to do their business, to operate, to produce. And that became the El Go's Creative Zone. One of the challenges we faced was, and again, we understood all this because as a government entity, we chose to sit with the creatives, to listen to them, to listen to their challenges, the opportunities they want. And a lot of the times, these creatives have the answers to their challenges. All we have to do is listen. We took away all the information from these meetings and these workshops and these majlises and formed strategies on how we can help them operate. So within this zone, we took many measures, including we changed the land use within the zone, which was initially it was an industrial area. We made sure we keep a cap on rent so that we can create living and working spaces for artists. We created incentives for them, creative funding options for them to set up. And we're planning to create a one-stop shop to handle their operational needs, financing needs, legal issues. One thing I want to say is the team worked so hard to allow creatives to now gain a license in under 7 minutes from the Invest in Dubai app. And that
in under 7 minutes?
In under 7 minutes.
How is that possible?
I mean, hard work. And having really good teams working for the sole vision of helping these creatives.
So, Your Highness, I apologize because I interrupted you. You were speaking about the different elements. So, land use on one hand,
Yes.
then thinking about the time it takes. So, that holistic approach, it's part of this idea. Dubai wants to see its vision as a city that leads in innovation, but also as a leading global hub for cities in the creative sector. But part of that is about community building. And you spoke about inclusivity, you spoke about listening to others. So tell us more how government can foster that inclusivity and bringing in different voices.
So again, we're lucky in Dubai to have around 200 nationalities live and work here. So when we think about launching an initiative or launching a program, we try our best to involve everyone within the industry we're operating in. One thing that I believe makes it very easy for us to do what we do is you have a vision that is from His Highness Sheikh محمد, which is to make Dubai a global center for culture, just like it's a global center for business. So with this alone, you can see the importance of culture within this city and the importance our leadership gives to the cultural industry. So you have the top-down vision, but then every strategy we work on, we initially sit with the creatives, we sit with the people involved, we sit with the stakeholders, the private sector, other entities within the public sector, and they feed us the information that they have, that they want, the things that they want to see happen. And luckily, it's very easy for us to go back to our leadership and say, this is what we need for the industry, and suggest changing legislation to make it easier for them to set up.
Ease of doing business is a big motto
Yes.
of Dubai and the UAE. But there's always striking that balance from government supporting and fostering
Right.
and making sure not to stifle. So how do you make a decision of when do you need to step in and when do you need to step out?
So again, like I mentioned, I see our role as enablers, as catalysts, and as an entity that is here to support the industry, and not an entity that is here to create an industry. As much as we can, we seek public-private partnerships to help us fulfill our strategies. We want to see the creatives themselves, creative entities, be a part of fulfilling the strategy and not having it relegated solely onto the government.
Now, your work in the private sector was really at Dubai Culture and Art Authority from 2008, and you've had different moments in this authority, but you became the chairperson just a few months before COVID-19.
Yes.
And one of the strengths of creative industries and culture is the lived-in experience. Mm-hmm. So I can imagine when you became chairperson, you had many great plans, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God had different plans for us. So tell me how you navigated through that, because you also spoke of your team, and I know how much you hold your team close to your heart. How did you react to that COVID-19 moment and also adapt your strategies?
So luckily, we live in Dubai, and our leadership focused from decades ago on building the infrastructure in different industries. So when COVID-19 hit and they announced the lockdown, it was 6 months after I assumed my duties. We thankfully switched to online work very fast within a week. We then looked at the industry, and basically everything changed overnight. So our main concern was how the creatives are doing, how the creative entities are doing, and how we can help them. And the first things we did is create workshops online, meetings online. The team had several workshops with the industry, and a lot of reports came out of it that actually helped us pivot our strategy. And I think the most important thing is to be humble enough to know when you need to change your plans and flexible enough to go in that direction.
That point on flexibility is hugely important, but it's also trusting your teams to know what to do. I want to ask you about this idea of talent development, because we talk about talent in creative industries for sure, and you know, be it artists, be it media leaders and so forth. There's also the talent within your own team, and thinking about how government creativity is harnessed through talent. So how do you approach that point on talent?
I think everybody has talent, as long as they're empowered and given the autonomy to act. Everybody has different opinions, different ways of doing things, and it's just a matter of accepting those different ways of operating. I mean, we've been given the autonomy to create the strategies and implement them by our leadership, and in turn, that's what I believe we need to give our team. Most of the ideas come from them, most of the directions come from them, and the recommendations, and it's all about working as a team, because the ultimate goal is what's best for Dubai and the people of Dubai.
Now, we touched upon the importance of the creative industries for Dubai as a city, as community building, but also there's an investment aspect that's important, and this is a global phenomenon. So I want to ask you how to stimulate investment in the artistic sector, and when you think about the opportunities to build effective partnerships, especially because you made mention of the private sector.
Yes. So I'll give you an example that I personally went through. We have a leadership, thankfully, that understands the importance of the creative sector, understands the importance of creativity and its impact on not only the creative economy within the city or a country, but also its impact on other industries. The difficulty wasn't convincing our leadership that this is important. They already know that, and they are backing us up 100%. The difficulty was showing our stakeholders, showing our partners in the government industry how important creativity is. And only when we started showing them the numbers that the industry provides, I mean, from 2001, the creative industry globally contributes 3.1% to the GDP. It creates 50 million jobs and employs, most of the youth are employed in these industries. So once they started seeing the numbers, they started to understand how important it is to partner into this industry, to invest into this industry. And I think we succeeded in bringing them on board and creating committees with our partners to work on really large-scale projects. And I think that is a turning point, in my opinion, to allow people to understand that they need to invest in this sector.
We've spoken about collaborating within teams, within the community, within government, but of course also Dubai looks globally. And if anything, the World Government Summit tells us that. So when we think about international collaboration, where do you see the creative industries being part of that? And how can you help shape a global framework for cooperation when sometimes we see global cooperation is not where we want it to be? Where do you see the creative industries in that?
I mean, collaboration internationally is beneficial on so many fronts. You have the obvious knowledge sharing and sharing best practices across borders. There's one example which I think is an issue within the cultural industry worldwide, in the creative industry, which is collecting data. And it would be extremely beneficial to come together and set, a universal framework for that aspect. But even if we do so, every single country has different classifications for cultural activities and creative activities. So coming together and maybe working together to create universal frameworks is going to be extremely beneficial. Support in the movement of creative products and creatives around the world, easing that would help a lot. And again, culture is a form of building bridges with other countries. It's one of the key elements to get to know other people. So yes, collaboration internationally is only beneficial for everyone involved.
I love that you brought up data sets, because I thought we were going to go in a different direction, but that's a really good point, because it's really hard to, beyond the big ticket item of the economy, to then have standardized data sets. It's different from if you say, how many hospital beds do we have, or how many schools do we have, to try to capture the numbers. Okay, so that's a call to action. Get standardizing of data sets, everybody, when it comes to the cultural section. And data is an important point when we think about technology, of course. So much has been said about generative AI. It's going to change the creative industries. How do you see this convergence between the creative industries and technological innovations, especially, of course, AI, but not limited to it, in impacting social development or even your work through, of course, Dubai Culture and Art Authority?
So I always get excited at the thought of bringing technology into the cultural industry. And I think historically that's been a point of great debate. But after COVID and the pandemic, we've seen more how technology can benefit humanity, benefit the society. And I believe creatives are now more open to see how technology can help them within the industry. I'm only very optimistic when it comes to technology. In my opinion, especially AI, it reduces the time to produce creative outputs. We see now people creating movies with AI. It's helpful in so many different subsectors within the industry. And as long as we have ethical considerations for using technology, and especially AI, I think it will only benefit the industry.
So putting together the creativity element, but also the efficiencies it creates, it's interesting you raise the ethical point, because I think often people don't understand how that can translate when it comes to creatives. How would you see that? How do you see that point?
I personally don't know how the technology works.
Neither do I.
I'm sure a lot of creatives are on the same boat as I am. There is a huge debate worldwide about the use of AI, and I don't believe we need to be as fearful of it as we're told to be. I think we need to proceed with caution, but also be brave enough to start integrating technology with art. And a huge part of the creative industries now is digital art. So yes, I mean, when I understand the technology better, I can probably answer this question better.
I think that's a great answer, because you said the idea of not being fearful. And I think that's really the strength of culture, is that if you spoke about bridge building, not being fearful, being open to what it can bring, but proceed with caution. So that's
but still proceed.
Yeah. Proceed with caution, but still proceed. That's a good nugget to go. Where unfortunately don't have enough time to go into everything. So my final question to you is this point about building bridges and the international collaboration that we can have through the creative industries. How do you see it? And if you were to give one piece of advice to those in the room with us, but also watching us, one piece of advice in order to build bridges when it comes to the creative industries, what would you say to them?
From where I stand, be proud of who you are, be proud of your culture, your history, your roots, and try your best to highlight that to the world, because the world is beautiful because of our diversity. If everybody spoke the same, wore the same clothes, ate the same food, I think it's going to be a very boring world we live in. So be proud of who you are and your culture. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was wonderful.